Hi, everybody. Welcome to True. It's Bob Ost. It's Friday. So, of course, it's our True Community Gathering. Many of you know that by now. This is 137th consecutive or 138th. I forgot to check before I tuned in today, but we've been doing it a lot. Ever since April 17th, 2020, when we didn't know what the heck to do because suddenly we were in something that they called shutdown. Does everybody remember when they said quarantine and you all, I'm sure everybody had the same response. It's like, quarantine? They don't really mean that, do they? Oh, no. I'm not going to have to shut my door and stay in my apartment, am I? Well, didn't we learn? So surprise, now we're in a different world again. Thank goodness we're out of shutdown, out of required shutdown, although some of you know this. I just had my third case of COVID. Nothing like a lovely case of COVID to open up and enjoy. So it's not over. I'm still wearing my mask. I'm still going out. I'm being cautious. If COVID wants you, it's going to find you. But you know what? At least it's not really as dangerous as it was. I had a couple weeks of coughing and pretty much functioned as normal. It's also because I'm a workaholic. Even COVID doesn't get me to stop working and lay down and go to sleep. So here I am. It's our 137th or something like that week of True Community Gatherings. And when we started off, we were talking about creating in a shutdown, isolation. Oh my God, what's happened to the world? How am I going to get out of bed tomorrow? Whatever we had to talk about, we talked about. And now that we're back in the live world, now that we have live theater, live performance, and we're going out more and living our lives the way we used to. With some concern, there still needs to be caution, everyone. So our conversations are changing a little bit now. My guests today are equally adaptable to a world of shutdown and a world of live theater. They can serve a function for the community no matter what's going on, because they offer some basic opportunities and resources that I think most of us in this room who are into musical theater will find useful and interesting. And we're also I'm going to probably push the conversation a little bit into what's going on with musical theater today. And have we evolved? Have we changed? Is it the same? Is it different? What is it? So with that little bit of a teaser, I'm going to bring in John Paul, Holly, and Rebecca Lowrey. Jean Paul Yovanoff, Holly Reed, and Rebecca Lowrey. And I hope I've pronounced everybody's names. Jean, you're not going to surprise me and say you're Jean Paul, are you?
I will not do that.
Okay, good. I'm surprised all the time. I think I make such good guesses at how people's names should be pronounced, and then suddenly it's like I'm corrected, and people like say, "Why didn't you pronounce my name right?" I did my best. I'm sorry. So Holly, good to see you, and Rebecca, good to meet you. I don't think we've met yet.
Yes, you too.
We're new.
Yeah, Holly, you and I have been talking since before you with musical writers. We were talking back when you were thinking about being a producer, and you reached out to True, and we had conversations about things. Remind me, what did we talk about? And
gosh.
And where have you come from, and what are you doing now?
Yeah, so there's a lot.
I know we talked about marketing. I think we originally were talking about marketing when we first met.
Yeah. So I kind of live in three worlds. I have the musicalwriters.com world. I have my day job world, which is design. And I actually, as of late, I'm doing a lot of freelance work for AKA. So getting to work on some really exciting stuff. So
AKA,
from a design standpoint,
that's nice.
Yeah. So that's I run my own design agency, but for the last year I've been freelancing with them. So wow, like all the things and inside baseball. So that's super fun. And then the other side is I'm a writer. So I have a show called True North. That's a Christmas show. We talked about that a minute ago about Christmas musicals and plays are kind of a fun thing to do. So we just had a 42 performance run in Orlando this past November, December. So anyway, exciting things going on there. So kind of wearing a lot of hats, and dipping my foot in a lot of buckets. I'm so excited to have Rebecca on board now, because I was just about to pull my hair out on how to continue to juggle each of these things that were expanding, pretty rapidly. So Rebecca is such a godsend for us at Musical Writers, passing the baton so much to her on a lot of things. She's really, she's doing a lot of the work of getting these shows up and working with writers to really help them know where they are, where they want to go, how to get there. And then some opportunities we'll talk about, I'm going to let her share with later.
And I want to just jump in and say that musicalwriters.com wasn't it originally founded by Carol DeGiere?
Yes.
And
yes.
I have to let everybody know, if you don't know this already, Carol DeGiere is the person that approached me and said, you should do some things about developing new musicals. And I said, what and how? I didn't know what to do. And we had conversations, we had lunches, and we talked about it. And through that, I eventually figured out with Kate Camerata, our workshop, which is called How to Write a Musical That Works, which is a three-part dramaturgical look at your musical structure and whether things are functioning the way that, never mind whether they're good or bad, are they functioning the way they're supposed to function? So I feel like I'm part of your company in some ways.
Yes. I mean, Carol and I, we have a sweet story, a sweet origin story that I think I see a lot of familiar faces. So I'm sure a few of you have heard that, and I won't go into it unless we have time later. But she was very instrumental in getting True North off the ground for us. And so we have a lot of mutual good energy and a good relationship. And when she kind of turned Musical Writers over to me, it was a blessing, and just the ability. I had learned so much from her and from musicalwriters.com. And then to just take my experience and kind of inject that into it, give it a brand refresh, and then be able to share my True North journey, which wasn't True North all the time. It was Come Find Me back in the day. All the things that I learned in that development journey, from tips on writing to how to pitch your show and self-producing and marketing. My goal with Musical Writers has always just been, it's a vehicle for me to share what I've learned and to somebody who is either right beside me or right behind me in the journey. And so
it's a vehicle to share what you know, but it certainly takes a lot of time and energy.
It does. And now that we are offering more opportunities for writers, it's definitely a bigger beast than it used to be.
Yeah, you've grown a lot, which is one of the reasons I was interested in bringing you guys on. Rebecca, talk a little bit about your background and we won't get into the opportunities that you're offering yet, because I'm going to introduce Jean-Paul first, but tell us a little bit about your background and what you do now.
Yeah. So my name is Rebecca Lowrey. I'm the producing director for musicalwriters.com. COVID really clarified for me that I just really was only interested in spending my time and energy on the development and creation of new musical works. I served my time with the Sound of Musics and the Mamma Mias. I've been a director and music director and producer in DFW for the last 20 years. And I just really am passionate about the development of new works. So I am based in 3 different places. I'm kind of a nomad. So I do most of my productions in Dallas, Fort Worth. I also am back and forth between here, my farm in Arkansas, and New York City. So I pretty much just live in the airport or in the car. And I really enjoy working with writers at any level of their development, whether they're on first draft, table read, staged reading, or getting it produced. And I really want to champion Dallas-Fort Worth as a premier place for the develop and creation and production of new musical works. We just have a phenomenal theater community here. We have space, we have real estate, we have theaters that need shows to go on, and plenty of actors, and our Metroplex just keeps growing and the opportunities keep growing. So when I am not doing Musical Writers, I have a day job as well. I work for a company called Romeo Music. I've been doing that for 17 years. And we specialize in music technology, sound systems, recording equipment, anything that plugs in. The majority of my clients are schools and universities. So I do get on a regular basis to talk to high school theater directors and collegiate theater directors. Even today, I spoke at a Texas Thespians Educators Conference at the lunch hour today. So it all kind of connects, but I'm very tech forward and tech minded as well in my day job.
Well, thank you for that. That's very interesting. I didn't know that much about Fort Worth, to be honest with you. I'm a New York guy, but my husband would move in a heartbeat. So I don't know if he's listening, but I'm in trouble if he's listening. He might be here. Jean-Paul, welcome. We met en passant. We were ships that passed in the daytime at NAMT, and you handed me a card. And were you surprised that I followed up?
A little. That actually, it is quite surprising, because over the time that I've been doing this, not everybody responds to you. So yes, thank you for contacting me.
Well, I immediately was interested in what you did, and I wanted to hear more about it. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you've done, and I guess we'll talk about musical theater radio and whatever else you want to actually throw in there.
Sure. Well, I'm up here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, so I am Canadian. So hello, everybody. You can tell by my accent, as I've been told many times. I'm a theatrical hybrid. That's what I'm calling myself now, because, I started out as an actor in musical theater, but then I became a writer and a composer and a book and lyricist and a producer and a director, and then started doing costumes and lights and sound and tech. And I just learned every part of the theatrical world, the front and the back. And that's what I do mostly. I run a free internet radio station called Musical Theater Radio. We play show tunes from around the world, old and new, popular and rare, but our mandate is to help promote new works and new creators. And by new works and new creators, I don't even mean just now. I mean, everybody, no matter how old you are and how, long ago you wrote your show, it's still new to somebody. So we like to support the lesser known.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome,
very
Bob.
much for that.
Because a 20, 30, 40-year-old show is still new to somebody, and they're still trying to break out. So we want to help support that on our radio station. Because of
you know me. You know me. I'm so excited.
Well, and it seems I know a lot of people already on here. I play a lot of their shows on our station and support them. So I'm happy to see all of you here as well. A lot of these people here have talked up True, and I was finally glad to get on. Because of the pandemic, I also started a company called, co-founded the Jill Edmund Virtual Theater. So it's virtually like being in the theater. It's online. It has a virtual lobby, just like a real theater. You can go on stage, but we've been using it to help promote talkbacks and workshops and screenings of musicals. So we created that because of the accessibility. Accessibility means more than just physical. It is economic. It is also geographic. And that's why we started that. So people from around the world can experience your show, whether they be in Australia or China or England or the US or Canada or wherever. We want to connect those people within our virtual theater.
I hate to ask, but do you know yet when you're going to be sampling I had no idea that I could submit anything to this man, but I started reviewing his website, getting ready for today, and I'm going, hey, I can send him my show. Oh my God, really? I mean, I was just astonished and so excited. So you've got it, and you're scheduling me for what did you call it? It's a sampler? Or?
It's called the sampler platter. It's an hour-long show where we sample 4 different shows. We play 3 songs from the show. We give a synopsis. We give who the creators are. We give a little production history, and if that intrigues anyone, they can go to our website where we put a simple 1-pager about the show. And they have the contact information and the website and the social media. So if anybody's interested, they can go there and contact you.
Well, thank you for that. So we don't have a date to tell people, do we?
No, we don't. I'm
Okay.
still working. It's next
Okay.
month sometime. I gotta.
What I'd ask, I don't know. Let's start going through some of what you guys offer. I mean, you basically touched on what you offer with your radio station, but we'll also talk about your virtual theater that you have. Tell me again what the name of it is.
It's called the Jill Edmund Virtual Theater.
Jill Edmund Virtual Theater. We'll talk more about that. But Holly and Rebecca, what is it you want everybody to know about musical theater, musicalwriters.com? And also let them know how they become part of your community, because I know one of the very basics that you have, like what we offer, is we offer a community, an opportunity for people to meet each other and share their ideas and share their work.
Yeah, Rebecca, I'm going to let you take that away.
Great. So we do have the Musical Writers Academy. That is our community that gets together as a monthly group. We have monthly master classes. We have group coaching calls, the ability to be a part of a monthly writers group, an overwhelming amount of resources and templates that are available for our members to use, and then an online platform where you can come and discuss and ask questions and get feedback. We've just started having Friday morning office hours, and actually a lot of folks who are on this call hung out with me this morning. So
Rebecca, I just want to stop. I want to stop you for one second, because you can take a little bit more time than you're taking. Tell us a little bit about what kind of templates and what kind of resources you offer.
Great. Holly, actually, do you want to give a list of the different templates that we've got?
Yeah. So again, like the motivation behind this was the stuff I was looking for when I was, getting started. And so I thought, okay, if I can build a budget sheet, or how to write an I Want song, or a checklist of how to do a staged reading, or whatever, I needed that stuff. And so I thought, well, somebody else probably needs it too. So the templates that we have, so template wise, we have a final draft musical writers template. And I would say that's probably one of the top things that people reach out for, is it's a little bit different than the one that's built into final draft. It's kind of a compilation of a few resources that I found that makes a really pretty nice industry standard. It formats your lyrics correctly and your song titles correctly, and your act, scene, page number formatting is all in there. And I will tell you, when I have submitted my script to different opportunities, I always, without fail, get feedback that the script was formatted so nicely, and that makes it so much easier for people to read. So that is a final draft template that you can import into final draft. So that's really popular. There's also just some PDFs on the site that are like how to format your script correctly. So if you're not using final draft, if you're using Word and you just want to see, okay, well, what should it look like and how do I do that? What font sizes do I need? What, all of those kinds of things, it's spelled out. There's also, like I said, there's how to create an I Want song. There's also Excel templates where you can download an Excel file that has budgets. So if you have a budget, if you're doing a table reading or a staged reading, and you want to just have something already preset, it's kind of like when you go onto Google Sheets and you just want somebody else to build the template for you so you can do your budget. It's built. I'm going
to go back to the how to write an I Want song.
Okay.
How do you tell people how to write an I Want song other than
have a character, honestly, it's been a while since I've looked at that. I would probably have to go look at it, because it's been a minute since I've downloaded that, or since I've looked at that. It's been a minute since I've written my I Want song. So I would have to look at that. You have to buy the book. Thank you, Pam. Yes, yes. And probably the biggest thing is we have this thing called the Ultimate Musical Writers Planner. And that actually has all of our worksheets, all of our templates. I mean, it doesn't have like the Excel template, because obviously it's in a book. But it is it's like 265 pages. And it's a big thing. And it goes through everything from writing and developing your characters, from creating a mood board. It's got like character worksheets where you can, talk. Like one of the first things that I did when I was writing was I had a notebook, And I discovered that like you're supposed to make character profiles. Well, that was exciting. So I just kind of started in, scrap paper. Okay, this character, what would he do? Like, what would he wear? What is his favorite food? What does he do for a living? All these kinds of things that I was piecemealing from all these resources across the internet that I have found, or books that I had read about musical writing. So this was just a place for me to kind of put it all in one place for other writers who are like, okay, where do I start? Well, first start doing character profiles. And so I've got that all spelled out. So that musical writer's planner is really all of those worksheets into one. Character development, story, the 7 plot points. Steve Cuden is a super friend of mine that wrote Beating Broadway, that book. He also wrote Jekyll and Hyde the musical, and he is big on the 7 plot points. And I learned so much about story. Had no idea that there were 7 plot points that you should cover. And Bob, in one of your questions that we talked about earlier this week, you talked about structure, and is it still important? I would say yes. In my world, in my opinion, structure is everything, but that's not everybody.
It's not everybody.
It's not everybody.
There's a lot of rule breaking today, which we can talk about a little later. I just wanted to put in just a moment to say that what you're doing is very similar to what we do in our three-part workshop, which basically breaks things down into the opening, the world and the want songs and introducing the characters. And then part 2 is basically about how you musicalize conflict. I mean, we're both actually approaching it dramaturgically. I would say it's just that I think that the pieces that we look at may be a little different than the pieces you would look at it. And I don't know, whatever works for somebody, we're happy to be there for
I think
them.
just having those resources out there, I think that was, when I started writing, it was about 10 years ago. And I was just scouring Google all the things. And then I would get the books and I would read them. And I just felt like, is there any help out there for somebody who wants to write a musical? It's so niche, and did find, bits and pieces in different places. And so I think that we support each other. And I think that the more resources we can put out there to people I think that's so great, because I feel like there was such a void when I started looking for really being able to find helpful things that spelled it out for me. Coming from not a writing, I didn't have that kind of background. I'm a copywriter, but that's a little different.
We talked about that too. That's how we originally
right. So I think just putting those resources out there, there's going to be one that fits every writer, what they're looking for, that speaks their language.
Well, do you do a workshop for writers?
So we have monthly master classes that are included in our membership. And then we also have other sets of classes that individuals can just come to on a one-off. This month, we're actually doing something really special, kind of harnessing our New Year energy. We're actually doing a social media boot camp. So for 4 Thursdays, we're doing 4 webinars. And that also includes daily mini challenges and encouragement. Again, I'm not a big New Year's resolution person, but I do like to kind of try new things and start some new habits off right with the first year. Holly's got the writing background, so she takes care of the classes that have to do with that side of it. I'm the producer director, so the classes that I do, the coaching that I offer, the energy that I like to put towards is the table reads and the staged reading. And what do we need? What does a director need to be able to bring your show to life? Looking at script formatting, like Holly said, but also piano vocal score, big on character descriptions and cast lists and cast needs lists, looking at how many humans is it going to take to make your show work and happen. And then also working a lot with those cold pitch emails when you're reaching out to theaters and producers. How do I get them interested in my show? How do I get them to even look at my script or watch my teaser reel? So that's what we spend a lot of time with, especially in our group coaching calls. I would say that, yes, the master classes and the workshops are very beneficial, and we get the opportunity to speak with and learn from some awesome folks in our industry. But I would argue that the time that we get to just spend as a community on the group coaching calls, on our Friday morning office hours, where individual writers get to ask about their show and their specific part in the development that they are and get feedback on that, it's so helpful, not only for them as the individual, but for everybody else listening. Because I think what we've learned is that we don't know what we don't know. And we don't even know sometimes what questions to ask until we hear somebody else. And it's the same, same concept in a masterclass for a vocal masterclass when somebody is singing for a group. Yes, they learn a lot from the feedback that they are getting from the master of that class. But I argue that you learn so much more from watching the other folks sing and the feedback that they get. I think that's the same thing that we bring to our community.
Totally agree. I mean, in
Yeah.
our workshop, basically, I always tell people, come for the feedback for your own show, but you're going to learn more from watching the other people's shows.
You really are.
Yeah.
And we just have a group of cheerleaders. And I think that's what Holly was touching on as well, is that, musicalwriters.com is cheering on the true shows and all of the other opportunities. I love it when our members come back and are so excited to tell us about the opportunities that they have with the other organizations. And we're just huge cheerleaders of each other. It is very cliche, but we talk about moving your shows forward and getting from page to stage. But that is our goal for every single one of our writers. That is really the ultimate win, is when you get to finally hear somebody sing your songs or read your dialogue and breathe breath of life into your show. So that's what's been super fun about working with these writers. So the last benefit that we've got for members that I think is the most exciting is our Academy reading series and our pitch night. Ever since Holly and I started talking about staged readings and how to do this idea of pitch night just really was very exciting for us. So pitch night is kind of like Shark Tank for musicals. And our Academy members can submit their show, their completed score, piano vocal score, and their completed script, a quick description, a quick synopsis, a couple of demos if they have them. Our next submission date for members is March 10th. And then on March 30th, we're going to have pitch night. And 5 shows get the opportunity to pitch their show for 5 minutes. We also ask questions about their show, where they are in their development, what their next step is. And then the winner gets a cost-free staged reading here in Dallas-Fort Worth. We did 7 of these last year. 3 the year before. And it's really been exciting to have that opportunity to work on these brand new works. I think Kennedy said it in the chat that Dallas-Fort Worth is just so eager to support new works. We get these amazing audiences that come out to see them. I'm doing one this Sunday night for one of our members. Jocelyn Moen has done a show called Omen, and I would say half of our audience on Sunday night is just from folks who came to the other readings. So we definitely are creating a following of folks who are interested in what's out there. And then the feedback. We do feedback forms for everybody who's in attendance and from the cast. And then they get a follow-up consult with me as well as the director producer of, hey, this is what worked. This is where we needed some clarification. This is where the momentum of the show really needs some reworking or some rethinking. And I'm really excited and proud to say that the folks who've gone through our stage readings really have seen a lot of its success, right? Have seen a lot of success that have come from that. We've got a show that's going to be off Broadway this year. We've had folks who've had some really awesome productions in their next draft. So that's probably the most fun and sparkly, exciting thing that Musical Writers has. But we're excited for those opportunities.
Well, we offer some things as well, but we haven't been able to figure out exactly the best way to do a presentation virtually. Our labs are virtual. I don't know if yours are yours virtual also?
No, everything is in person. So
yeah, because we ask people to actually film a 10 to 12 minute presentation But the thing that's good news is I raised money in our year-end appeal, and I got enough money that I can actually reimburse some, if not all, of the expenses that people are going to have in order to make their virtual presentations for our workshop. In our workshop, I don't know if you I guess you have something similar. We have producers come and give feedback. We have producers and writers, and I mean it's a mix of people. So I always felt bad. I'm a writer, and I always say that I don't like to create programs for writers that I can't afford. And it was always a problem for me since we went virtual with it, that they had to make it. There's no other way of you can't do a live presentation of a musical on virtual. The lag and latency just kills you.
Right.
So we had them. We came to the decision that we would require that they create a filmed version that they could I could just play as a 10-minute video in the workshop. But I knew it also cost people money. So now I've raised enough money that I can sort of defray some of those costs. So I'm excited about that. The one thing you didn't mention that maybe you did, but I didn't hear it. It's one of the things that caught my eye on your website, licensing. Do you have some sort of guidance about licensing?
We just had a workshop. You want to talk about the workshop that we just had?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a few people come in from Broadway licensing who just talk about the process and help people understand that, you know, it is tricky to get to licensing if you go the traditional route, because the licensing company is going to want to have a track record. So, you know, until you've had several productions under your belt, you know, your big licensing companies aren't going to really pay much attention. But they encouraged people to start self-licensing and kind of gave us some tips on that. And, you know, just walked through the benefits of that and kind of the nuts and bolts of that. So that is something we, you know, there are different paths, and we want to acknowledge that not everybody is going to Broadway. You know, not every show is meant for that. And so, you know, your goals, like, we're trying to kind of wash that preconception, you know, out of people's minds and say, okay, let's look at what your show is, what your goals are, where is most appropriate for your show. And, you know, I would argue that one of the things that I have been pretty solid about with musical writers from the get-go is that we are really not about trying to get a huge volume of shows produced. We want to get people to really work their show, develop their show to where it is worth being produced. And that may sound harsh in some settings, but I want to be very honest and straightforward from the get-go that if this show doesn't make sense, or if your songs are, if, like Rebecca, from a producing standpoint, if your show is not producible because of X, Y, and Z, we need to go back and evaluate that. And let's look at how we can maybe craft your show or the components of different facets of it to make it more producible. And if the story is fragmented and you're getting feedback and are you getting feedback, you know, instead of just saying, hey, let's get my show produced. Well, how much feedback have you gotten? How much dramaturgical work has been, you know, poured into this? I don't want to ever just blindly say, oh, wow, you've got a show, let's get it produced. Like, no, that's because I know that a lot of us have probably been to shows that were horrible, shows on Broadway that I was like, how on earth did that thing get on Broadway? You know, and I'm like, somebody needs to stop and hold the hand of writers and say,
it's not just the writers. It's just not just the writers.
True.
That's one of the reasons why
True.
Our workshop is promoted heavily to producers. I still haven't succeeded in getting the producers in the room. I've gotten some of them, and the ones that have come into the room have gone, oh my God, is that why that show didn't work? They suddenly understand they need to understand, producers need to understand the dramaturgy of musical theater as well as the writers do. Mm-hmm. And that's one of our goals. I'm going to move back to Jean Paul.
Sure. Yes, for sure.
Just so he doesn't feel neglected.
I'm
learning.
Sorry.
Jean Paul, let's go back to music theater radio, and then also we're going to talk about your virtual theater as well.
Sure.
You have a pretty good lineup of unknown shows. I mean, I saw myself, there was my album cover in with these, like, I don't know, it's eight. How many are there? Are there 80? Or
It's at least 160, I think.
at least 160. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I went through that. I went through a list of 160 shows and didn't realize it. I was so entertained. I just didn't even realize. So do you have any criteria for people who want to submit to you, and how do people submit to you? How do they submit their CDs or their demos? So we should specify that you don't require CDs. You can also take demos.
Yes, for sure. Because if I'm for the sampler platter, it's literally just to get a sample of it. Not everybody has the ability to create, professional sounding demos. Even if as long as it's high quality and I can understand what's being said and heard and musically, that's all I require, really. Because it's just to give you a little flavor of it. I think anybody who comes and listens to the sampler platter shows understand that these aren't necessarily, there's a big range. Some of them have been off Broadway. Some of them have never had a production, but have some demos and have a full script. And it's a whole wide range.
Oh,
and
I
it's
see
just
now. I see now. I have some more things to submit to you now. Okay.
And that's the thing. I just want to give it's an opportunity for writers to have their songs heard. I know there's Spotify and things like that, but Spotify, how many songs are in Spotify? Millions and millions, and it gets lost in there.
And I'm not sure how many listeners are interested in Broadway cast albums.
And well, that's the thing too. Well, they also go to Sirius XM or they go to iHeart Broadway, but you know what? Both those companies are beholden to corporate overlords, and it's money. Me, I want money. Let's be honest. We all want money, but I'm just one person running the entire thing, and I listen to every single song and I curate them all. And I want the opportunity for you to be heard. During my general mix of songs, every sixth song is from the sampler platter to make sure they get heard. It'll be mixed in with everything else, but I'll say, check out the next, hit song or hit show or whatever it is I put before. And I want you to be heard. Right.
And of course, you are the voice of Music Theater Radio. Right?
I am the voice.
I've listened a couple times. Yes,
yes. It also, I did this also. I also have a podcast radio program called Be Our Guest, where I love to interview the new writers. And the people, like I've interviewed Holly, for example. I know I've talked to you, Rebecca. I don't think I interviewed you, but we've talked. And a number of people on the call today I've interviewed. So they have that opportunity to talk about their work, talk about themselves, which in turn gives them collateral. So when they have their pitch decks, they can put that in there, that I have a show in the sampler platter on this radio station. I have this interview. So essentially that's what I want to do. I want to create opportunity for these people, these writers, to have collateral and to be heard. And even if nobody hears them on the station, they have that collateral, and that is worth money beyond being heard.
Donald wants to know who the audience is of the sampler platter. Do you have? I don't think he has a distinctive audience, because, like he said, he basically interpolates it into the sampler platter is a show of its own, right? That's.
Yes. So at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., there's a episode called the Sampler Platter for an hour. And we play, and you can see on our website what songs are playing, which days, and everything like that.
Do you have any demographics?
It's hard to tell, because the back end of this thing is terrible. So it doesn't really give me a lot of demographics. It also, I can be heard in the UK, the States, and Canada. So when people listen, it's so random and it's hard to tell. So that's my brutal, honest answer.
Okay.
We got to siphon off the people from Sirius XM and iHeart Broadway.
Ed Levy wants to know whether you deal at all with short musicals, 10 to 20 minute musicals.
As long as they're stage musicals, that's my criteria. I don't do movie musicals on the station. So yeah, I have a 15-minute musical in the sampler platter that, it's on stage. It deserves to be heard.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to have discovered you. So I'm going to take full advantage of it.
Please do.
I don't know if you listened to my CD yet or not, but
I did.
do you know that that's all live? That's all live playing. It wasn't. None of it was synth. I actually orchestrated the whole album, and we brought in players. This is my first time orchestrating. I was terrified. I mean, literally, we had a investor come in at the last minute, and he said, "I don't want any synth tracks. I want everything to be live orchestra, live instruments." And I had studio time booked like 2 days later. I ran to my computer and I immediately started orchestrating one of the songs. And I brought it in. I said to the players, "I've never done this before. Tell me if it makes sense." They all looked at it like for 2 seconds and said, "It's fine." They played it and it was like, "Oh my God." Oh my God, it worked.
Nice.
So I love orchestrating. I love writing for instruments. So let's see if there's any other questions out here. Everybody in the room, remember that you can ask questions. You're encouraged to ask questions. Owen, if I missed any cues, I think there was something from RK a while ago.
I think RK was making a reference to your opening statement, but his question was, aren't we still wondering what has happened to the world? So
Which leads us to the next topic of conversation. Jean-Paul, you're also in a good position to know this, because I think you're aware of what's out there and what people are submitting to you. What has changed in musical theater from the classic days? I mean, I think of the 60s as like the golden years. I think that we can safely say that there was a time when a lot of shows that we see on Broadway as successful musicals would never have actually been embraced on Broadway. Things like Next to Normal and Fun Home, and I know that musicals have gotten a little bit more daring in some ways, and I know that format has changed. Things are not necessarily in classic format. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're not structured. What are the things that you've noticed? Any of you, whoever wants to jump in?
Go for it, Jean-Paul.
Well, I was going to say for my submissions, it runs the gamut of everything from that classical sound to rock music. I have this one guy who used to play with Ozzy Osbourne. He's 68 and he wrote a musical like a couple of years ago, and it's just pure rock, but he's a classical pianist as well. I've got another guy who wrote a hip hop musical. It's a little bit of everything. And I think since the time of the 60s, when the change happened with hair, right, then it exploded and anything goes now. What is musical theater sound? There isn't really. The only thing that I think, and I think you guys would agree, is structure is still important. Whether even if it's an avant-garde structure, it still has to have some kind of structure.
Who's seen
the sound is?
Who's seen A Strange Loop? Have any of you seen it?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, yeah. Talk about the structure in The Strange Loop, because it's definitely not conventional.
No, it's not. But it's still A to B to C to D. It just go A to A plus over to C back to B. It goes around, but it's still a structure of beginning to end. Unlike Merrily We Roll Along.
Well, yeah, there was a troubling structure if ever there was one. Mainly because if you go into dramaturgical terms, we always say that you want to introduce a character with a strong want at the beginning. We have to know what they want. We have to understand what the journey is that we're going to follow. And in Merrily We Roll Along, they just flip that upside down, because we get the end result, and we have to go back to the beginning before we find out that it's what the I want really was to begin with. So it's interesting. There's lots of flexibility in musical theater, and I respect that. But I always use the rules to when I'm writing my own show, when I'm in a corner, stuck in a corner, when I painted myself into a corner, it's like, okay, what rule did I break here that got me where I am now? And so sometimes understanding the basics and the dramaturgy and the structure and the so-called rules. There's no musical police out there looking out for us and ready to arrest us if we break rules. But if you understand the rules and you know that something's not working and you can't figure it out, the rules sometimes help. Would anybody disagree, or anybody want to disagree?
Well, I mean, I have an unpopular opinion about structure, and because I'm not a writer and I don't see shows as a structured story, mainly because I think that our ways of consuming media and entertainment have just changed so much, just even in the last decade, with short form between TikTok and YouTube, and then also the way that we are able to stream an entire 10 hours, 20 hours of a sitcom or a drama on Netflix. So for me, I usually worry less about structure and worry more about momentum. And is my audience still interested, or are they looking down at their phone, or are they going to swipe right on my show? And so I think that that is what has allowed maybe for some loss of structure in the new shows that we're seeing, is that it's more about that forward momentum. And is our audience still engaged, whether it's energy, speed, suspense, heartbreak? What is keeping us interested in sitting in that seat without picking up our phone, or without, going to the next Netflix show that comes up, or what makes us tap out at episode 2 versus episode 7, or watching 6 seasons in a row.
So I want to jump in. I also want to jump in and say that from a point of view of classic structure, it's some of the rules are actually created for momentum. They're there actually to stimulate momentum.
Definitely. And I'm not going to argue whether there's rules to be broken or to be followed. But I think that is what is allowing some non-traditional structures to have success, because they are harnessing some of those other methods of entertainment and of momentum as well. I think the other thing that we're seeing just differently in new musical works versus classic works is that I think a lot of folks we're done with the just boy meets girl, regular love story. I know from the actor's point of view, especially, that they're looking to tell stories that are similar to the stories that they've lived. My brown and Black actors are interested in telling stories that aren't centered around their trauma and that are written by folks who have the same backgrounds as them. That's what's really interesting to the actors, and we need the actors to make our shows work. So I think that that's what we're seeing the most gravitation towards, at least just from the folks who are interested in bringing these shows to life.
So other than Bobby and company, can you think of some main characters who have kind of nondescript wants that still make for successful shows? Because I think one of the keys that I like to remind people of is they need to start with a character who has a deep driving desire, something that they really, really want. And that's true in A Strange Loop too. This poor guy wants to figure out how to write this musical. And that's his deep driving desire. And that the want is kind of what stimulates the movement of the show and helps us to understand who we're supposed to be rooting for. Bobby is a passive character. It's always been a problem. We always use Bobby as the example of the central character in a successful musical who is a stumbling block rather than an asset. Any other thoughts?
One thing that I wanted to say that is just kind of piggybacking on what Rebecca said is, I think there's always a want. I mean, that's kind of a typical thing. And it should be there. There should be an identifiable want. But I think as writers, and really as maybe as a community and the shift that we're talking about, I feel like it's gone from writing from an ideal want to an honest want. And we're not, I feel like maybe some of those classic, those back in the day things, I don't think people were as honest with themselves. They were not self-aware. They were not authentic. There was a real strive to the ideal, whether that was really you or not. It was just, let's look at this, how things could be, and let's write how things could be if we were in an ideal world. So, a lot of those shows, those really classic era shows, was just this beautiful thing that was beyond us, and now I feel like we're all too smart for that. Like, we know that's not reality. We know that's not our real life. So I think we are writing wants that are honest. They're achievable, and they have their own merit, but we want something that is real. We want something that's authentic. And so I think that's why we're moving beyond that classic boy meets girl. I think we're moving what do I really want?
I have to admit, I can't think of a single boy meets girls show right now. None of them.
Exactly. I mean, that's that's what's being successful.
But that's not necessarily one of the keys to dramatic structure. I mean, what we want is as a character who wants something. And what's classic in the structure, and that tends to work, and I'm sure can be broken, but tends to work, is the want that somebody has, the character has at the beginning, often turns out to be something that they achieve and find out that they don't want. And then they have to rethink the whole thing. So there's always a first act turnaround where like everything's coming up roses. Mama Rose gets what she thinks she wants, and it's like, nope, she has to. Her daughter becomes successful, and then it's like, no, that's not what I wanted at all. And it takes her to the end of Act 1, Act 2 to realize that what she wants is for it to be about her. She doesn't.
Right, and I think I think our audiences want to relate. They want to see something on stage that makes sense to them, that they can relate to, which, sorry for all of you, I'm going to be so me right now, but like Wicked was a life-changing event in my life. And it was because I saw somebody on stage I could relate to. And I think that is really, you're presented with these two people and you're going to connect to one of them. Like if you're a girl, you're going to either be Elphaba or you're going to be Glinda. Like there are two roads there. And I was like, wow, somebody's telling my story. What? How did anybody else know that this was something people feel? And so that was so inspirational to me to be able to think, okay, I want to write a story. I want to put something on stage that when an audience comes, they are going to find themselves somewhere in that story. They're going to relate. And our story, our show, True North, I've gotten so much feedback about that. We have 3 characters and you're going to relate to, you're one of them. And people will tell us, oh my gosh, I was so this person, or I was so this person. And this gave me so much hope because I saw myself in this character. And that, oh my gosh, to me, that's what it's all about, is helping people feel like they're not alone. So if we can do that with theater and they can see themselves represented on the stage and they can be engaged from start to finish and feel like, oh, wow, that was a really rough journey that character just went through. That feels very familiar because my journey is pretty rough sometimes. And if they can make it through something really kind of stinky, I can probably do it too. It just gives me a little bit of hope. And so I think that is where stories have come to today, is that we just want to see ourselves do it. We want to see somebody up there who's representative of us make the choice, get the want, not give up. And then that's inspirational to our audience. To me, that's the whole reason we do it.
Jean Paul, any thoughts?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. Owen, anybody in the room say anything that you want to bring up for us?
Yeah, we had a couple of questions earlier. Donald wanted to know, if a writer's on the sampler platter, can the writer use the recording to market their work beyond mentioning it? Can you send out the recording?
No, it's your recording. You send him the recording. So you own it. Right.
And then
ask Donald if he wants to clarify his question.
Donald,
possibly for the interview portion.
Yeah, I meant the interview portion.
Yeah.
In other words, can you actually send the broadcast out as part of your submission package, or do we just discuss that we were on it?
You can do, you have access to it.
Okay.
If you'd like a copy of it, I'll send it to you. That's not a problem. I don't own it. It's for everyone to use.
Okay, great.
All I ask is of the shows that I help, I just want a ticket to it. When it gets on stage, let me have a ticket to the show.
Exactly. Say our name when you win your Tony.
That's another thought, another good thought. Anything else, Owen?
Yeah, RK wanted to know, how do you introduce a new musical to these resources? I'm not 100% sure what resources you're talking about.
Maybe the musical writers. So for our pitch night and for the Academy reading series, you can become a member. It's right on our homepage. And then the submissions are right there on Academy Reading Series. Maybe Holly could drop the links as well. But for our pitch night, that's all it is. It's really simple. You become a member, then it gives you access to the submission form, script, clearly formatted script, piano vocal score, quick description and synopsis, quick development history. Have you had table reads? Have you had a staged reading? And then that's as simple as that. And then just being a part of the community introduces me to so many works as well. Just talking about these shows on a regular basis and following everything as well. Question for Rebecca and Holly, are you having the new musical festival again this summer in Dallas-Fort Worth? Yes, we are. It'll be July 14th and 15th in Fort Worth in the exact same place. Drew was there. The most exciting thing about our in-person festival, and it's the only thing that we do in person besides our staged readings, everything else is online, is that every attendee, whether you're a member or not, has the opportunity to submit a song and be performed. We performed over 55 new works, songs from new works at our festival this summer. We have an amazing group of performers who just pour everything into bringing these shows to life. And then we also have open mics on both evenings for folks who want to sit down and share part of their songs as well. We are going to do something different this year. Last year, we did a full staged reading on Saturday night, but we are actually going to highlight and spotlight 4 different productions. And again, it's the same submission process just for Academy Reading Series. So we're definitely looking forward to the summer.
Vinny asked a question very early on, and we never asked it. She wanted to know how many members you have. Do you have?
Oh
an
yeah,
idea?
I texted her back in the chat, but we're about 150.
150 members.
Yeah.
And can you give it? Do you mind telling us how much it costs to become a member?
Yeah, so our monthly membership is $34.99 a month, or you can do an annual membership for $349 a year.
Okay. And Jean-Paul, I think in the chat people were asking about how to submit, and I think most of them figured it out. But do you want to actually just tell them?
Yeah, if you go to the website, there's a tab called the sampler platter, and there's a drop down that says, what does it say? How to sign up a musical.
You didn't talk about the other opportunity. There's a sampler platter, but there's also the rotation.
Yeah, there's the general rotation. If you just want to send in your songs or your show, you just send me the MP3s or M4As, and I go through it and I listen to it. And as a listener, I think, you know what, this sounds good. This one I think would be popular amongst the listeners. And then I can just add it to the rotation. Yeah.
That's exciting.
And let's go back to the virtual theater one more time. And
Yeah.
who can use that, and how would they use it, and what would it do for them?
So there's so much opportunity. Like I said, we started during the pandemic. I technically used it about 3 months into the pandemic. I partnered up with Stuart Brayson in the UK, who wrote From Here to Eternity with Tim Rice. And we did a one night only event where we brought him, Tim, the director, some of the cast members, and did it. And it was a fantastic success. And we just went off of that and started doing more one night onlys. We started doing some workshop things. And then my partner, Lori Glodowski, she also works at NYU Tisch, the writing program. And they had to figure out what to do with their final presentations, because they always did them live, but they couldn't, obviously, during the pandemic. So they recorded them. And we said, hey, we've got this virtual theater. Why don't you put your final presentations in there? So the students got to, put it in there. There's different floors, different tables. They could talk to family and things like that. Excuse me. And what it did was created an accessibility that really wasn't there. People from, from around the world came in and checked that out. We also did a live stream of a show in South Carolina whose families were in Brazil and things like that. So the virtual theater can be used for live streaming as well as for pre-recorded stuff. We can do conferences in there. I hold monthly networking events called CPAD, which stands for Creators of Musicals, Producers, and Artistic Directors.
So let me stop you. Let me ask you something. So It's more than just a virtual platform. I mean, I'm using On the Stage right now. It's a virtual platform.
Yes. So
you have bells and whistles.
There are bells and whistles. So imagine in real life, you come into a theater and there's tables and there's chairs and high tables and there's couches. Well, they're virtually there. So instead of Zoom and there's, 70 heads in front of you, you go sit at a table and you're only talking with those 6 people. So then you can jump from table to table and talk to different people. There's different floors.
So it's like breakout rooms, but the breakout rooms are existing simultaneously on the same screen.
Exactly. And you can see who's sitting at what couch, just like in real life. And you say, hey, Bob's sitting over there at the couch. I'm going to go over and talk to Bob. And you can do that.
I like that. I like to do that with this.
We can, but it's just the experience and the feel of it is completely different. It's
so do you have little avatars?
There's little circle avatars, yeah. So you'll be able to see yourselves.
They're just circle avatars. They're not,
but cool. It's just a different experience than this. We've done we did Come From Away. We did a one night only with them, and we put them on different places, and we did like a photo booth with them virtually, and took pictures, and people could go visit them and things like that. So it's just a different way to do things.
So I would say that I'd love to see the avatars, but the avatars I've seen in other virtual rooms never have legs, and it's creepy.
Well, no, it's just your face.
It's creepy.
keep it simple. I'd love to give you a tour of it, Bob, at some point.
Maybe that'd be good. That would be good. Any other questions from the room, Owen?
There were a couple of questions asking some clarifying questions about this virtual theater. Is it on Oculus? Do you stream videos of shows as well as playing music?
It's not on Oculus. I'm not even sure what Oculus is, so I'll say no, it's not on Oculus. Yeah, we can stream videos as well as play music and things like that. You go into a virtual state. Catherine's been there, as she put in the chat. It's just
Oculus is virtual reality, isn't it? Isn't it, Tracy?
No, we do not do that.
That's let's see. Anything else, guys? Anybody else want to? So people in the room. Before I say goodnight to everybody, do you want to ask any questions? And guys, Jean-Paul, Holly, and Rebecca, I hope that you'll be able to stay a little longer if you can. We'll talk about that because I like to do breakout rooms. I like people to meet you. Sure. So is that it? He said, trying to end his show gracefully. Well, no, I got somebody just coming into the room now. Why is that? So Jean-Paul, I'm glad I met you at NAMT, and I'm glad I reached out to you, and I'm glad we finally connected. Actually, it's taken a little bit of while, hasn't it? It's taken like 3 or 4 months, but we did it finally. So you're here. Now, welcome to True. I hope you'll come back. Holly and Rebecca. Holly, we've had this ongoing email relationship for like for more than 10 years. It's a long time.
Yes, it's so great to officially meet face to face.
Yeah. Yes, it's really great having you. And Rebecca, you sound like you're astonishing. She is so astonishing. Just amazing. Is there anything you can't do? I mean, I'm gonna actually ask you to build a set next week. Is that okay?
No, actually, I have a couple of things I can't do. I'm really bad at locking and unlocking doors. Keys, just I can only do the piano keys.
Piano keys, yeah, they're good with piano keys.
They mess me up every time.
That's so funny. So great having you. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for being part of our community now. And I'm going to go and say good night to everybody, or goodbye, or good afternoon, whatever time it is out there. YouTube people, if you want to be part of the room, and if you want to actually ask questions and be here and hear the mistakes that get edited out when I edit it for you guys to hear it, you can email me at trunltd@aol.com. trunltd@aol.com. So email us and just say you're interested, and we'll send you the Zoom link every week, and you can be part of the conversation. We do this as a community service. We did it. We opened up because the world shut down, and we wanted people to have a place to come and gather and talk about who they are and what they want to do, and what their dreams are. So we don't expect people to pay. We we expect some people to pay because we have bills to pay. So if you want to pay, if you want to do pay what you can, there is always a free button for everybody, and you're always welcome to be here. If you want to pay something, do pay something. Do not let me stop you. You would go to True Donate, trudonate.com. It's trudonate.com. Whatever you can give, we're grateful for. We just did an end of year drive. Our goal was $10,000 by December 31st. We didn't make it. Right now we're at 9,000. So post 2022 and now in 2023, we're getting closer and closer to our goal. Keep pushing us closer to it. I'd be very grateful. We have a matching grant. We have a matching grant of $8,750. And we didn't make $8,750, so we're not getting that full matching grant necessarily. So you want to help us get closer to it? We'd appreciate it. Next week, we have a conversation about TV and film, which we try to do that every now and then because we like to talk about the differences in the three businesses, theater, film, and TV, and what the opportunities are for different people in the different areas and the different medium. So I hope you'll join us then. And 2 weeks, I'm supposed to, but it's not been completely confirmed. I'm supposed to have a very big player in the UK on my show. Is going to talk about, if he confirms for 2 weeks from now, he's going to talk about some pieces, immersive pieces he's bringing to the United States, to New York in particular, and some theater spaces that he's upgrading and creating here. So tell me what else you want to hear me talk about. And email me at trunltd@aol.com, and I'll put something together if it's something that you're interested in. And if there's somebody you want me to invite, I'll invite them. If I can find an email, I can invite somebody. So that's it. And thank you all for being with us, and hope to see you again, and hope you'll be part of True.